Species. Unite.
You look at these animals and they're just so far removed from the life that, that I want them to have, that they should have, that, we would hope that wild animals have. And they're just humiliated and degraded, and they're so utterly powerless.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Novogratz. This is Species Unite. In this conversation, we are taking you inside one of the darkest corners of the animal tourism industry, places where wild animals are stolen, broken, and paraded for human amusement. Joining me are Nina Jackel, founder of Lady Freethinker, an organization exposing and ending animal cruelty worldwide, and Blake Moynes, wildlife conservationist and founder of Save Our Species Alliance, who recently went undercover in Thailand to document the hidden realities behind elephant rides, tiger selfies, and orangutan shows. What they found is heartbreaking and happening far more often than most of us realize. Together, they're shining a light on the cruelty behind cute tourist attractions and building a movement to change what people see and share online. Welcome, Blake and Nina. It's so good to see you both. Before we get into it, why don't each of you give some background on who you are, and then we'll get into how you got this whole thing going.
Where I came from. I mean, it's been a long journey. I've been on the reality TV circuits for some time, and once I came off that show, I've always had a passion for wildlife and conservation, but saw an opportunity off of very random just posts for rhino conservation, that there was a lack of voice and how much you could do with a voice. And so since then, 5 years ago, it's kind of transitioned, and we've tried to make more of it, because there's a lot of people that want to be a part of that mission and that push towards conserving wildlife and wild places. SOSA was kind of born from that, and now we're doing projects all over the place, supporting different NGOs, and that's how in some way Anita and I had connected. So that's where we are now today, and we've now worked on a couple campaigns, and obviously the most recent one that we're here to talk about today.
I'm Nina Jackel. I'm the founder of Lady Freethinker, and we're a nonprofit animal protection organization. And our main mission is to expose and stop animal cruelty. We work on some of the worst abuses in the world, honestly, from the dog and cat meat trade to animal crush videos in which animals are being tortured, and the content is shared across social media and also sold. We also work on individual cruelty cases, but one of the issues that I really care most about is stopping wild animal tourism, specifically wild animal selfies. I was very, very happy when Blake wanted to join in this campaign and was willing to trek out to Thailand to go document these cases. I've actually been following Blake's work for a while. Lady Freethinker gave him an award last year for his work in animal conservation. So I'm just very, very proud to be partnering.
Thank you.
Why Thailand, and why was this the project that you decided to work on together?
So Thailand is a hotbed for animal tourism. It's really easy to find these attractions, and it's, sort of shocking that people actually still go to these places. The best thing that I can do, that I believe we can do from here, is to show people the cruelty behind that and effectively stop that profit from coming in, which in turn would shut these places down.
I think we all have people and know people that have been to Thailand and seen photos shared from people that we affiliate with, or know friends or family, or we're so connected now that when you see these things happening on a regular basis, and you actually have the knowledge and understanding that how wrong this is, it was an easy one to go and want to execute because I understand how this is a tourist destination that a lot of young people like to go to, especially in their early 20s. And, you with all the social media buzz and wanting to look as cool as possible, doing that with wild animals, seems like a great thing to go and do and take advantage of. And unfortunately, Thailand really allows that to happen to extremes that is insanity almost. And so we had the opportunity to go out and actually see if we could put some socials together and document some of these things from someone that was, maybe relatable and someone that was seen as trusted in that social space, and try to put a name behind, why this is so terrible. It just seemed like an easy, yes, let's go do this.
It's demand. Demand drives this stuff. And people see their friends giving an elephant a bath, and they're like, that doesn't really look that bad. I mean, because a lot of the stuff really doesn't look like it's hurting anybody. Or they see somebody holding a baby tiger, and that's really cute. And they want to go do it too. Subconsciously, they're already putting it in their heads. Hey, when I'm in Thailand, I'm definitely going to hold a baby tiger, and I'm going to give an elephant a bath, and do the whole list of what they're seeing. And so I think from what the two of you are doing together is kind of just slowing that down and like broadening the lens on what these things really are and what it really takes to get the baby tiger or the elephant getting bathed by random humans. Talk about when you got there, what you saw.
There was no shortage of head shaking moments of just not necessarily surprised in a sense of, because I have a general understanding of what goes on in these places and what it would potentially look like when it came to wildlife, specifically from orangutan, elephant, tiger, lions, any animal you could really think of that across the places we went to, these facilities we went to, you had anything you could really think of. Anything that you could see in a zoo here in North America was over there, but you could just go to extremes with interactions with these animals. And it was the first time in a long time where I had true goosebumps every day at every facility, seeing some of these animals in the situations that they're in. But the layer that really struck a chord was the energy and the tone with the people. It was just so tone deaf, and it was so hard to understand the cheering and the not seeing anything wrong with it whatsoever. And the amount of kids and youth that were going through these places as part of school programs. And I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds at every single one of these places. And it was like, what are we setting up, our future to look like when we're setting an example that animals can be seen, treated, and disrespected to this degree? And that was the biggest struggle for me.
Like, give some examples of a situation where there were kids watching and sharing.
There were some places that were more busy than others. When we showed up, there was literally buses and kids ranging from 4 or 5 years old up into mid-teens with backpacks on, part of their school groups and classrooms that would go to these places and sit through all of the attractions, the lion and tiger taming, the elephant, taming, and the circus that it literally is. The orangutans being dressed up as children and made to do even weird sexual type stuff. Like, it was so awful. And the kids are there and cheering and clapping, and it was encouraged. And so we're sitting there just surrounded by children across the board. We're the only ones sitting there trying to almost put on a face like, hey, because we're already stuck out like a sore thumb. And so how do we kind of sit there neutral and not stick out with, our mics and our little cameras and things to show that, we didn't want to be kicked out at the same time. So it was alarming. And that was the biggest struggle for me to really comprehend and see, because that was the most surprising piece. And that happened for every place, every show, every animal. And it was hundreds and hundreds of kids. And not one person in that place had a somber face or realized, I shouldn't have come to this place. This isn't for me. It was the energy and the tone around it was so positive. And that's what was killing me on the inside.
Just hearing that, it's very saddening, but it also really shows how much this work is needed and how badly, we do need to get out there and document it and, post those social media videos that show the other side, not the cute side, but the realities. And, I'm just very glad that Blake is using his influence for that purpose.
I know it's happening all over Thailand and a lot of other countries, and variations of it are happening in the US. Not as extreme, but we have roadside zoos and all these really bad things that a lot of people don't know are bad. And even like the kids that you saw who are cheering this on, they're going there since they're tiny, and their parents went there, and everybody thinks this is like what you do. And so to break that conditioning, I think you really do have to pull it back like you did. Nina, will you take a couple of the examples Blake's talking about, the orangutans, and like what happened, like how they get there?
The industry itself is very, very dark. It's not just the training and performances. I mean, the suffering starts from birth. There are a lot of families that are separated in the wild. They might shoot the mother because they're trying to protect their baby. They're grabbed from birth. Sometimes they're bred in decrepit, barren conditions, nothing close to a natural life, and really forced into isolation from a young age so that they don't, have a family outside of their human captors. And that's how they're broken. And that's how they're trained. And that's really why they will do these performances. The only way to get an animal to perform an unnatural act is to break them, and usually through fear. Like that orangutan boxing show, for example, it's just horrifying. You look at these animals and they're just so far removed from the life that, that I want them to have, that they should have, that, we would hope that wild animals have. And they're just humiliated and degraded, and they're so utterly powerless. I think that the power dynamic is, one of the most troubling parts. They never had a chance.
And Blake, like when you started posting this stuff, the zoos and the orangutan attraction and the baby tigers, that level of just kind of abject cruelty at a zoo, what have reactions been like?
Well, surprisingly, I mean, we've posted I think twice now. I mean, we have so much to work with that we wanted to actually dive into and touch on. It's just a matter of editing these things and finding the different components to highlight, whether it's orangutan or tiger and lion specifically, or actually touching on and showing how devastating it is, and my angle that yes, I knew what I was kind of getting into, but I didn't know I was getting into the component with the kids and how this is so built into the youth, because I think that would be really alarming to see, because that was the most alarming for me. So capturing those moments, putting those together. Now, in terms of our, the feedback, the type of responses that we're getting. I mean, the one that we just recently posted that really highlighted the lion cub, selfies where you can go into this little enclosure and they're pulling it by the tail, and it's for 300 baht, which is next to nothing. Amazing responses. We're seeing that there's actually people that are like seeing how wrong it is, and that post has been blowing up, not only from views but the amount of comments, and it's still flowing and flowing and flowing. So there is so much power in media. But the thing is how can we get more people to do this type of exposure in these places? Because we're one person and one small team going out to do this. But the more that we can do that, the more we can get people to see it and a perspective. Because a lot of people didn't even know this is actually happening. So these comments flooding in it's shocking them. But it's going to bring awareness, and it's that trickle effect that you hope. But just how can we get more people with the bigger platforms to do these types of things?
Yeah. How does that become the norm on social media versus like seeing people holding the baby tiger, but like it's actually shameful to hold the baby tiger, or no one would hold a baby tiger because they know what goes into that tiger's life. It's the more people are flooded with this stuff, the more they start waking up to, oh wait, this isn't so cute.
And, the change does happen. You mentioned the atrocities that happened to animals in the US, we did used to have mainstream circuses where elephants were forced to perform, and they too were, broken, their spirits broken with chains and ropes, and they performed out of fear. And it took decades of work by activists to wake people up to what was really going on behind the scenes. But it did happen. It took a lot of protesting, a lot of social media posts, all of that. Ringling Brothers was the big one, right? 10 years ago. They don't exist anymore. I think that example does show that it's possible to change people's perspectives and their minds with enough persistence.
I think the other piece too, and I think maybe played into more so how jarring what I saw was I think we also need to try to understand people that haven't had access to these animals in the wild or seen them as magnificent and they are in their most natural wild place and state. When they see them for the first time in a zoo or being treated like this, they have no comparison. And so I think that was the biggest struggle for me, that it's been a long time since I was little of when I ever went to a zoo in that way where I've seen them confined or any type of entertainment show or anything like that would have been when I was a kid. But now being so ingrained and have so much experience in the wild across so many different continents and working with multiple NGOs and seeing animals in their most pristine natural state, wild and free, to then go to a place like that, that's when it hits and it's like, this is crazy. This is crazy. But if you don't necessarily have that image and understanding from an onset as to how they should be and the respect they should have and how magnificent they are in that wild place, but it's always just started from within a zoo, or then it just becomes normal. This is the way it's supposed to be. But if you don't have that comparison, there's not enough access for youth and kids to be able to see that. So what are the things we could do to show the education? It was the onset of where these animals should be. So there's that comparison. You're like, it's so obvious and clear when you show up to one of these places, this is wrong. I should not be here.
No, that is such a good point. My team was here last week, and we don't all live in New York, or none of them do actually, but we're doing an elephant project right now. And we were at the Bronx Zoo because of it. And none of us had been to a zoo in decades. You have to ride the monorail to see the elephant. And so you ride past a bunch of animals, and we rode the monorail many times. And it's a version, it's a much less abusive version, but it's not a whole lot different in the sense of kids are all screaming. It's an elephant in this tiny, tiny space, right? But it's exactly what you said. This is their experience of what an elephant is for the most part. And so if you don't know any different and you really haven't thought any different, and this is what you're seeing from very young, that's what an elephant is. And it's a really hard thing to get across, that no, that's not what an elephant is, and that's not what a tiger is. And it does take, I think, mass amounts of what you're doing right now to just start getting that to become the norm. And that's what we have to shift, massively. What shocked you the most? And not human-wise, but what you saw with the animals?
Surprisingly enough, I think it was the elephant. It was the elephant shows that gave me the most goosebumps across every facility we went to. And I think the reason for that is to see, 12 elephants out there at one time, so powerful. And in real life, I've done ranger training. I've spent a lot of time in the bush and in Africa, and you do not mess with those animals, and you give them all the respect in the world. And to see them in the complete opposite state, powerless, but knowing how powerful they are and how just smart and intelligent they are, and just treated like actual clowns and circus freaks. That was the thing, because I know you're just watching it and you're thinking about what's going on in that elephant's head, to go through the same thing every 10 minutes. And it was just, my blood was boiling and I was just, and I haven't been in that way in a long, long time. So that was the one thing. And I thought maybe, seeing cubs and lion cubs still devastating, but I think the intelligence of elephants and knowing that they're going through that, fully aware that that is nothing about that is natural. nothing about segmenting or keeping them isolated by themselves when they're such social animals, chained up in small areas, and just being like, what are we doing here? The other piece was probably the orangutan. Across multiple locations we went to, it's basically like they're on rewind, and every 2 minutes and there's another kid or someone else waiting to go and take the photo, and they go through the same poses, the same smiles, the same everything every 2 minutes all day. And those animals don't get switched out. They just are on repeat and made to seem like they love it. Like they're trained to constantly smile. They're trained to constantly engage in a way that seems like they're having the best time. And it's like, that they're not, that, and that it's those little things that mess with me, just understanding the behavior and how these animals actually work and how social they are. And then knowing how much they're suffering inside and not from just the exterior.
Yeah. That's devastating. It's completely devastating. And those orangutans, all of them, like in the wild, have these big, full, rich, massively social, incredible lives. And to see that, and to also, and I think this is one thing a lot of people don't think about when they go to attractions like this or any kind of zoo, is you watch something for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and you leave. And that animal never leaves. Like it just never leaves that little enclosure where you're watching whatever you're watching. It's there that night. It's there the next day. It's there the next year. Until they die.
And that there was, there was a place that was really focused on tigers. And we're saying dozens and dozens of tigers across these little activities, and they're all sectioned off to do different things that you could do with them and gamified. So there's a lot of games you could kind of play to like feed the tiger or whatever to make it seem fun and cool. You could walk tigers, you could shoot these guns that would drop food down. And a lot of those tigers were malnourished. And you can see that they probably were only fed if people were actually hitting the targets. All of them were chained up. Many would be isolated and chained up, and then others would be confined in very small areas with, 10 in there at once. And it's just all concrete. And we had little moments where you worry a little bit. Again, we were the only white people in this place. And so we stuck out. And I typically can stick out in general. So there was eyes on us, and it was interesting to try to maneuver through these activities and go through these places to try and keep somewhat of like a smile, and like thumbs up, and like try to like laugh here and there, because otherwise, if you're going through so somber with cameras, it's very clear that you're not there to help them or benefit them or actually enjoy it. And how do you, maneuver through that without, again, like some of these places can be dangerous. You don't know how, these things are going to go. So that was a really awkward thing to do, is constantly, they'd be in your face being like, you love it. Yeah. Great, this. I'm just like, haha, yeah. Like, it was an awkward thing across every day where trying to do these things. And, we, as much as it was, Nina's team was like, just document stuff, but don't pay for things. But I'm like, okay, well, I'm also gonna pay for. But I'm like, hey, but I'm here though. I want to go see what happens behind this door, regardless if I pay $5 or not. This thing's gonna stay open, so I'm gonna pay the $5, and I'm gonna go back here and see what this is actually happening back here and how these things move, right? And so we did document a lot of those things. Participate in some aspect, but with the idea that if I can use this in social content as me participating for $5, and then we get 400,000 views and all these petitions and all these comments to bring awareness, is the trade-off worth it? In my eyes, yes. Now, being careful in how those things are delivered in socials, right, and not painting a picture that makes it look cool anyway, and making sure that there's very key understanding here as to what we wanted to go and try to execute and do, and how do we bring this to another level. Now, we may not show everything, and there's a careful, way to go about delivering these pieces of content and showing that. And that's why we have an approval process to make sure that the alignment and the key messaging is correct here, so that we're making sure that there's no room for error in how we deliver why this is so terrible and why we execute this project the way we did.
And you were undercover. I mean, so paying for the things, it makes sense. Like what were the kind of things that you had to pay for?
To go and do the tiger shooting of the meat thing. So you have to go up. They don't let you in or really get to see it unless you go and get up into the section to see it and do it essentially. But I will say, I'll tell you, I made sure I hit every target so those animals got fed. Things like that. The tiger walking scenario, and we had a very sketchy instance because there's another piece to this which is very interesting in that, I'm not bringing my media guy with me in the back if I'm going to go and do something. So I, will pay to go back there on my own. And they'll take your phone. They ask for your phone. Right? Hey, like, do you want photos? They ask for your phone. Like, hey, do you want photos? Do you want photos or whatever? And I'm like, that's okay. They're like, no, give me your photo. Give me your phone. So I'll give them that. What I would do is I would attach my mic to the inside of my shirt. And as long as I'm like kind of looking happy-ish, they're not really questioning too much. And they're holding my phone as I'm beside the tiger, but what's coming out of my mouth is all the messaging is like, never do this. But I'm kind of whispering into this mic, like, never participate in this stuff. Like, yes, I'm here doing this, but the idea here is to make this controversial in a sense that you're going to see what the hell are you doing, Blake, but listen to the messaging and like how cruel and devastating this is and show you what you actually can do in these places and why it's so wrong. But what happened is he was not recording. He thought he was recording. So I went through this whole thing with a tiger and I got to the end and realized the audio was not working and he wasn't recording. So I was like, well, this is an important piece. I need to go back and do it again. But when I asked them if I could go and do it again, that's when they noticed my mic and I was alone in the back and they brought in some other people and they're going like this to one another and they're pointing around and they're all kind of like being sketchy. And so I'm back there with 4 or 5 guys with a adult tiger on a chain.
Oh my God.
And then I'm kind of freaking out a little bit because there's no one around with me. It's in a gated section away from, the rest of my team, the 2 people that I went with. And, I just, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get what I wanted there because I didn't want to speak because I knew that they knew I had a mic. And so I kind of walked through kind of awkwardly, getting a piece in here or there when they weren't looking and, giving a thumbs up to make it seem like I was enjoying it. And then we just left. We got out of there after that because we didn't want to, again, we stuck out why we have these recording devices and things. But little moments like that, we had some close calls that we managed to walk away from. But
wow. Yeah, that's sketchy. Good undercover work, though.
Really good undercover work.
I love how, dedicated you were into, getting this stuff done. And yes, I completely understand having to pay for things like that. And, ultimately that message it makes it worthwhile.
I was telling Nina before we started, my team was here last week, and one of the women on my team is also the photojournalist. And she had just won a whole lot of awards in Europe in October for a photograph she took in Thailand. She was on a tiger rescue at a tiger factory farm. And it's of a tiger who's like skin and bones, who was used for breeding for 25 years, on the verge of death with her head against the wall. What I learned from her, tiger breeding in Thailand is illegal to breed like this because they're bred for tiger bone wine and they're bred for Chinese medicine and they're bred for selfie props and zoos. But a lot of zoos are really breeding factories, right? And so these places that you're with all these tigers are like, they're much scarier probably. I mean, you were right to be scared because there's probably some really shady stuff going on. Like, you should have been a little more scared.
I take a lot of risks. We towed the line and definitely picked our spots. And again, it was a lot of struggle to be cringily pretending like I was enjoying stuff to try and get through those moments and like make it very obvious that I was enjoying it when I was not. But the amount of tigers in these places when, maybe there was only 6 on display in, a certain place, but that there's 100 and you've seen 100, locked up in other spots that are more behind the scenes. It's like, there's way more to this. And there were some facilities that had this for dozens and dozens of howler monkeys. The amount of monkey species that were in cooped up, almost like chicken coop size cages, stacked and stacked and stacked, and some of these behind the closed doors sections that, again, Scott almost got into some hot water trying to like sneak into the back and get all of that. And the guy came around the corner and was all up in arms. So yeah, there's way too many animals at these places that there's something else that they have use cases for. And what, that was the other thing that was alarming for sure.
It's hard to shut this stuff down. It's obviously, or it wouldn't be going on, And so a big part of shutting it down is stopping demand.
And hopefully someday the government will step in and do something to stop it. Honestly, I hope that happens sooner rather than later. It's really time. It's really time for them to do that.
And is there any, like this project you two are doing right now, is there any government crossover with this? Is the government aware that you're doing it?
Oh, we've reached out. Getting a response is a whole different story. I'm sad to say that that's fairly typical. The government doesn't want to, respond, because what are they going to say? There's no good answer except, okay, here's a draft proposal to ban selfies and tiger breeding. And we're going to take a vote on that next week. There's nothing they can say to really make the industry look better.
So talk to me about next steps.
Next steps, we have our petition. Please do sign it at ladyfreethinker.org. We will keep reaching out to the government, and of course, we'll keep sharing it on social media, on our all of our channels, our email newsletters, all of that. And I know Blake is working on a lot of really powerful content to share. So, be sure to follow him as well.
I congratulate you both on this whole campaign. It's super important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To learn more about Nina and Blake, go to our website, speciesunite.com. We will have links to everything. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Species Unite. If you have a spare moment and could do us a favor, please subscribe, rate, review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps people find the show. I would like to thank everyone at Species Unite, including Gary Knudsen, Caitlin Pierce, Amy Jones, Paul Healy, Santina Polke-Link, Hannah Gabrielson, Bethany Jones, and Anna Kolner, who wrote and performed today's music. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.